When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
To the heroes of tomorrow, the energy that they dispense is of today. And today we get to mark International Youth Day 2021, which we're going to be looking at here on Good Morning Uganda. But thank you so much for kickstarting your day with us now. As you kickstart the day, sip on a cup of coffee as we let you in on the know of what's been happening around town. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga. Good morning, and I hope that you had a wonderful night. Even if we're in the midst of a pandemic, we trust that all is going well with you. We trust that even when we are in week 2 and getting into week 3 of the easing of the lockdown, your business is getting back to form, your shop, anything else that you were putting your hands to and had been locked down. Well, in the month of August, it's the month to actually flourish. Good morning to you, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Priscilla. I must say, you're looking good. I love the yellow.
Thank you very much. It's actually called mustard.
Oh.
Hey, yeah.
Okay, you know, sometimes. But you once had specs. What happened? I was going to tell you sometimes I think I need some sort of an opportunity.
You just brush your eyes in the morning.
Please don't try this at home or elsewhere. Bad idea. But good morning, our lovely viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. I'm glad some of you set your alarms to catch up with us. It is your morning show here on UBC TV. I'll inspire you, but ensure that we give you all the basic relevant information that you need as you kick-start your day, because we are here and that is what we do. Priscilla.
Yes.
So much is happening in our country.
Very true.
Yesterday I was happy when I saw people that represented our country in the Olympics meet the president, some promises, some gifts given. You know, it's a shame to see a gold medalist walking on the streets, 1, 2, 1, 2.
It's just a shame, but how do you expect them to move from one place to another? They have to use their feet.
We need to inspire.
Okay, so because we have gold, you have gold, you can't walk in the air, you walk where?
A person, you see, status. Help is also another way of motivating.
This is the problem.
It's also another way of motivating.
This is how you remove the ladder for people and they fall down. You put them up that side.
That's where they should be. It's not about putting them
that is not
up.
where they should be. They're fellow human beings, just like you and me. They breathe in the same air like you and me. They're allowed to go downtown Kampala, by the way, just like you and me.
That is
so
okay.
This segregation and putting them in another status suddenly. Where were you to put them in that status before they won the gold?
Now they are there.
Now they are there. You're
so
putting
we
them
must
up there.
ensure
But before they went there, you put them down
they
there.
suit the For me, I was very happy. I saw them get cars, the pledges of houses, then also reawakening the previous pledges. Because they said, yes, some of them were not getting the 5 million as promised by the president. And this was, this was an opportunity to awaken that. Some got it in once, twice, thrice. But this was an opportunity. The president came out very clear on this. And Mr. President, Your Excellency, I'm happy that you came out very clear and said, I never said quarterly. I was very clear, every
No,
month.
now he's clear. Then they had put it in such a way that it's quarterly or on a yearly basis. But now he made it vocal this time that it's on a monthly basis, which is a very good motivation. But here on Good Morning Uganda this morning, we are also motivated by the presence of Molen Kenyana in our first part of Good Morning Uganda. So happy to see you with us, Molen. Good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Priscilla and Robert, and also a very warm morning to you, all our viewers here at Good Morning Uganda. I am interested, and I was actually happy about yesterday watching the president's speech. When you're talking about it, that passion is also what I was getting yesterday. And I loved it most when he actually called on the leaders in Sebe. He was like, where are you guys? What can you tell me? And that was interesting to see what they had to say in terms of supporting our athletes. This is a field that he's now focusing on. And when you see the president really putting that much effort to make sure things are done, I think that is a very, very great impression that I was getting from the president yesterday. And I was happy about it, personally.
Yes, lady in red.
I knew. By the way,
Yeah.
I was very surprised that you had not mentioned it earlier. I actually thought you were even going to go ahead and sing this song.
Lady in red. Anyway, well, today also is International Youth Day.
Yes.
And it is a day for the Molens.
It is the day for the gold medalists that we talk.
And,
Who's the youth, by the way?
According to our constitution, a person who is 18 up to 30. So once you're above 30, then you don't qualify to be in the youth bracket of this country.
Okay.
Even when they are voting their leaders, when if you're clocking,
Kamoga is still a youth.
Kamoga is still a youth. But then they are permanent youth. I think Ruben is also among the permanent youth.
Or the alumni of youth.
There's that stage I don't understand. Because from 60, you're counted among the elderly. Yeah? But then from 18 to 30, now from 35 to about that 50 something, how is that group?
Middle-aged group.
Isn't that why most people do cut their age at some time? Because you don't want to get from that group, you're still youth, and then you hit 35 and you're like, okay, so now what category do I belong to? So yeah, we try to turn it down a little. When you click 30, I don't know whether when I get to 30, I will have to cut down to 30, I mean to 29 or something.
We shall see your statuses when that time comes. They start putting +1. Happy birthday to me, +1. They don't put the actual
Now they've learned the word floors.
What are those?
I've gone to the fourth floor.
Yes, fourth floor.
First I was like, what? When my young brother put this, I've reached this floor, I'm like, where is this guy going? Until I learned that is another way of I've hit the 5th floor. So just think he's on the 5th floor. Okay. The man has hit 50. But the good thing is 78% of our population are youth. So majority of Ugandans are youth, and this is a very important day for them, for us, the country, to look at the achievements, the challenges, and how we move forward to better the affairs of the biggest population of our country.
Speaking of achievements, the Olympics team did have an achievement. They brought gold, silver and bronze back home. Mr. President gave out stimulus packages. Just appreciating them for the good that they did in putting Uganda on the world map at the recently concluded Tokyo Olympics 2020. Now, for gold medalists, they'll be earning $5 million per month till the day God, collects them to go and do Olympics in heaven. Silver had 3 million, 2 million? No, 3 million. And then you have the bronze getting 1 million per month. And then the other benefits, they each got nice cars, Prado Sports. Those are really nice cars. And then you had the commitment that their parents are going to be having houses built for them. This promise was made to the Dokas in the Kuru era, and it has never matured. In Nigeria, it took 34 years for these things to be actually brought to fruition in terms of the Nigerian national team that had won the AFCON some time back. 34 years down the road, they had made commitments, financial commitments, building houses, and it had not matured up until this regime of the current president. So The president can make his promises, but the people who have been tasked to actually make sure that there's maturity to these promises that he's making is where the challenge is.
You've just reminded me of our own in the media fraternity who passed on. That was the late Bale Francis. At one time, the president made a commitment to have a house built for him. But till his time of death, I think the house was not even completed. It was a hard thing. But one thing with the athletes, we just tell them win more medals. Because every time, then you have that opportunity to meet the president. And now some of these reminders will come.
So you mean meeting the president is just enough, satisfactory enough?
No, you know, when you have an opportunity to meet His Excellency, for example, like we talked about earlier, when they met him, those that were qualifying for this money and were not getting this money, this was re-echoed, and you saw how he emphasized. So it would be a shame come the next Olympics that maybe we still get gold, we get silver, and the president has to welcome back the team, and they're like, Mr. President, none of us has ever received this money, none of us has ever done that. But we hope and pray that these things motivate, and when we continue with this deal...
But motivation has never been a challenge for Ugandans. We're self-motivated. You tell me where the gold is, I will go and actually hunt for the gold. Molin, just to pick your mind, the president also came up with a very nice strategy on how we can get to identify and groom talent through the different communities and regions. He said, like, for example, in a school, a teacher should identify a talent or community leader and then report it to the office of the RDC, and then, you know, the process should continue from there. What do you make of this kind of nature of scouting?
And I was particularly happy with him insisting on the education system, because as kids grow, that is when also the talent starts to grow. So if kids are not in school, for you to identify whether they are talented or not, then it's going to be hard for them to move from their community systems, from, you know, where they're living. But as long as they're in school, especially now that we have I think every school in Uganda, they do have that co-curricular activity going on annually or even part-time. So that helps for these kids to grow up, and they're easily identified. But the question still is, so after the UPE, which has been easy for kids to go to, but then the USE, that is where the challenge is, because most of those actually require money to be there. Now, if a family cannot afford having the kid in secondary school, then it also cuts off the time for them to be identified. And this is going to be a challenge as long as our education system is still in limbo. What we need to do is look at how better can education system, especially in areas like Sebe, really where we have had most athletes come from. This is supposed to be focused on. And I think also the president was insisting on the fact that most of the directives he gives actually are not implemented. And when he says, I want this done, and the leaders there also just sit back and relax, we are not going to get results. So even taking them from the school system to be identified at RDC level, district level, and then, you know, for them to be bettered in that field, there needs to be a background. And that is where we need to focus on. That is where we need to make sure that, because it's sad. And I think it's Chemtai who said she dropped out of school at a certain level. Now, imagine if that were to actually take a stroll on her and maybe she's demotivated. It means there are others like her who didn't even get a chance to go to Uganda police like the rest, like she did.
All right.
So for them, it's still going to be a challenge.
Thank you so much, Molin. I had a conversation yesterday with Jean Senin, a former She Cranes player for the national team women. And she was talking about how she actually ended up playing professional football at 17 years of age. And when she went to the UK to be training with the other kids her age, she realized that she was far behind in terms of the kind of football that was being played on international level. And she also realized that the training starts from 3-year-old, 5-year-olds are already introduced to sports, not as a luxury, but as something they can actually be trained in. We have seen tennis players who have actually been trained from the word go, inception, as children. They're given the bat, they're given the ball, and they get to train on track. Because this parents, and I think this is a notion that we need to step away from. sports cannot just be a talent. It can also be groomed and instilled into someone else. You know,
Yeah.
just like, you know, being a lawyer is not, some may be good at arguing, but some learn to actually argue and they become also good lawyers. So if we can step away from the thing of we have to talent search and actually groom an environment where anyone has the ability, can push themselves, can become something. So from that regard, Ministry of Education and Sports, I think they should consider making sports an examinable, what is that? Subject. Yes, examinable
you know,
subject.
Sports is a co-curricular activity. And usually, I know of a parent who asked her child, this guy was a very good footballer. And the father asked him, is football asked anywhere in your name?
Okay.
So
all right.
concentrate on things that are examinable, things that are going to take you far ahead. This nonsense I don't want to hear. And the poor boy had to chicken out of sports because the father said, should I hear again that you're spending time on soccer? I'm not going to pay your school fees again.
Yeah, I know, it's a tragedy. This story tickles a lot of conversations for me. But anyway, speaking of conversations, the best conversation we have been having all year long is the fact that you need to take care of your health. And so to take care of your health, the ginger tea drink and the tamarind drink from Hallelujah Reflexologists are the best recommendations to keep natural and also take care of your immunity system. The weather changes are definitely causing some flus here and there, but these drinks are going to boost your immunity system so that when you have these weather changes affecting you, they actually don't go so much as to even cause you a single flu that people will then start to look at you differently. Priscilla, do you want to go for a testing? Suspect. Yes. Yes. So please take these drinks and enjoy them. You can consume them on a daily, and they are found in every kiosk and supermarket next to you. Also, speaking of next to you, we are next to you in case you are on the move through our platforms where we are streaming live. YouTube, we are streaming on UBC Television Uganda. On Facebook, we're streaming on UBC TV, but also live updates coming up every second and minute on our Twitter handle, which is UBC TV Uganda. On to the last 24 hours with the stories that have made headlines.
And allow us to start with the vaccination drive that is happening in our country. Remembering, we received another bunch of vaccines and vaccination kicked off in various centers throughout the country. In Kampala, mass vaccination for COVID-19 resumed yesterday at Nambole COVID-19 Treatment Center after government received more doses recently. However, different groups have been selected for this round's vaccination at the facility. According to the facilities administration, they are targeting 10,000 people to be vaccinated. Also, UNAIDS, in conjunction with the National Forum for People Living with HIV/AIDS Network in Uganda, a non-governmental organization, handed over COVID-19 relief items to Nambole COVID-19 frontline health workers to help them deliver effective services.
Yes, and in our other stories, we have Kabaka's visit to Germany. And now the Katikiro of Uganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, has dismissed social media reports making rounds that Kabaka went to Germany due to sickness as false. Addressing the media at Bulange, Mengo, Katikiro Mayiga says that Kabaka went for an official visit and monitoring of activities done by the Kabaka Foundation in Germany. We do have more details on this story.
Well, away from the Kabaka visit in Germany, we now come home, where empowering people still remains a problem using the Emyoga Fund, where the internal bakery of Emyoga Task Force is one of the reasons why the program has failed in Amulata district. The revelation came in light during a heated sitting by the Parliamentary Inquiry Committee on Emyoga in the district. The district received a total of 970 million shillings in January, but no association has benefited from the money to date. Chaired by the district woman member of Parliament, Agnes Atim Appiah, the committee also established that 40,000 shillings paid by associations as registration fee was fraudulently and contravened the guidelines of this program. As Eddie Ogwa reports, the RDC Nalwoga Kwesiga was also faulted for failing to adhere to the guidelines and was handed to the record of police to record statements with effect immediately. That is to ensure effective planning of this program and people can get the money as planned by the government.
More on what we have this morning. We have a judicially new structure now with the name of improving on service delivery towards rendering justice to Ugandans. Judicially is to recruit more justices, judges and magistrates in different court circuits across the country. Well, this comes as a result after a cabinet approved the new judicial structure plan early this week, following the enactment of the Judiciary Administration Act of 2020. This was disclosed in a presser at Uganda Media Center, situated in Kampala, by the judicially spokesperson, that is Jameson Karimani. Priscilla, what do you have for us in terms of international media?
The international scene, New York continues to pull down men and make room for women. As powerful men fall, women are increasingly stepping up to take their places, often elevating a brand or a business in the process. Such is the trend in the United States, where the #MeToo movement continues to force politics, business and media to take sexual harassment claims seriously rather than sweep them under the rug. This week, outgoing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo joins a long line of men whose departure from power in the wake of a sexual harassment scandal created space for a woman to ascend. In 2017, a surge of investigations, lawsuits and reports of sexual misconduct led to more than 200 powerful men in the U.S. losing their jobs. By mid-2018, nearly half of their replacements were women, according to an analysis by the New York Times. While the #MeToo movement has helped boost female representation from the upper echelons of government to the E-suite, there is still a way to close the gender power gap. In Afghanistan, its government is arming local groups as part of a three-phase plan to push back the Taliban offensive, the Afghan Interior Minister tells Al Jazeera in an exclusive interview. Afghanistan Interior Minister General Abdul Sattar Nizarko says that Afghan forces are also forcing on trying to secure main highways, large cities and border crossing after the Taliban seized 9 provincial capitals in under a week. Nizarko, who took charge of the country's 130,000 strong police forces 5 weeks ago, said the government was throwing support behind local volunteer militias known as uprising movements. All the soldiers that abandoned their posts, were bringing them back to their posts. The third is to bring offensive operations, and at the moment they are moving into the second phase. In the last 3 months, the Taliban have more than doubled their territory, and in the last week started to take provincial capitals, seizing 9 by Wednesday yesterday. And back to the continent of Africa, we look at Zambia deciding today whether to re-elect President Edgar Lungu after the country's worst economic performance in decades and the crackdown on dissent that has risen fears of unrest. His main rival in what polls suggest is a close election is 59-year-old Hakainde Hichilema, making his 6th run for the presidency. Hichilema has already narrowly lost to Lungu twice in a 2015 by-election after the death of ex-president Michael Sata, and then in general polls the following year. Lungu deployed the army following clashes between the rival supporters in the run-up to presidential and parliamentary polls, a move critics denounced as a tactic to intimidate opposition voters. His Patriotic Front Party spokesperson, Antonio Mwanza, claimed on Tuesday that the opposition is using violence to undermine the electoral process and to intimidate people so that they do not turn out in numbers to cast their ballots. Surveys suggest economic hardship has eroded support for Lungu, accused of borrowing unsustainably to finance flashy infrastructure projects as living costs soar. And those are the stories on our international scene. As Zambia gets to decide, it's definitely changing and difficult times for them, not just economically and what has been happening in the president's regime, that's President Lungu, but also amidst the pandemic, it changes the stance and how people view what they will be doing in terms of the polls today. But away from that, into our newsreel that is coming up in our next hour, we are going to be looking at the International Youth Day that is being celebrated globally today. And we will also be looking into the business sector. As arcades are being reopened, a stimulus package of 200 billion has also been given to the business community, SMEs. But how is it going to be handled given the previous chapters that we have been seeing of money given to people in this regard and different groups? And we'll be hosting the CEO of Casita Group. And so stay around with us for more of Good Morning Uganda. We'll leave you with a special song.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
distancing. Wear masks properly. Sanitize or wash your hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Therefore, understanding this model. Hey, excuse me, lady. Who do you think you are? A queen?
Hey, haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning to you once again. Welcome to our 7 o'clock hour this morning, Thursday, the 12th day of August 2021. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, and we're delighted to be in your company. Equally is Robert Kirabo. Now, into our newsreel, today being the 12th of August, every single year on this day, we get to celebrate International Youth Day. And what is it really about? It's about recognizing youth. And it's about empowering youth to actually make positive contributions to their communities, to their surroundings, and to the larger extent their countries, thereof the continent, and then the globe. And this year round, the theme around the International Youth Day is transforming food systems. Now, of course, when you look at Africa, the scarcity of food continues to be a struggle. The increasing number of refugees across different parts of this continent also brings in scarcity of food supply. That, you know, by food I mean you can easily wake up and get something to eat without having to actually work or fend for it. And so this time around we are focusing on food systems. And you may be asking yourself, what are food systems? Here to discuss and dispense this dialogue with me is Robert Kirabo, and I'll start with a very simple question. Robert, what are food systems?
Well, thank you, Priscilla. Food systems in a layman's language is that process food goes through, right from planting until it gets to your stomach, and even how it's disposed. So this year round, we look at globally, this theme globally this year, we are concentrating on food systems, because it's not only just about having enough food or having food on table. It's about how safe the food you're eating. So this is where the United Nations has focused this time. And in September, we are going to be having the Global Food Systems Summit. And Uganda is one of the countries that have greatly interested themselves in this through the Office of the Prime Minister. So when I look at this theme, it's very important and really timely at this time. That you don't just say, I have cassava, but this cassava you're taking could be poisonous. Maybe during planting, during harvesting, there could be mistakes that make it hazardous to your health. But being a theme at this time, Priscilla, I want to interest you in some statistics where I find it very relevant that are regarding Uganda. We all know that 96% of our farmers are depending on rainfall-fed agriculture. And Uganda's highest population, actually Uganda is one of the countries in the world that has the youngest population. Many of these are from the ages of 15 to about 25, 30. But the biggest challenge we've been facing as a country is that depending on rainfall-fed agriculture. That when seasons change, it is drought. We cannot farm or grow crops in and out of season. So when this is a theme that goes to the youth, youth have gone to school. Youth are innovative. How can we come up with systems in the food production that make it sustainable? That we plant in and out of season because you have rainfall.
When you put it in that way, actually, you see the initiatives, especially government-related initiatives, the MIOGAs, the money that has been put into food systems or improving agriculture and encouraging the youth to participate in agriculture has been in such a way that they will give you either monetary or they give you, for example, nuts. They will give you the seeds, they will give you the animals to actually start the process of the food system. But without that consideration that now times have changed, we no longer need to depend on the seasons to be able to carry out planting. You can plant in and out of season, which then would have to attract investment in the systems that we are talking about.
And of course, I have the Innovation Fund. I want to tell you, and I want to call upon the media, there is so much innovation happening in the agricultural sector. And actually, many of these are youth. So if we can empower the youth to ensure, yes, we talk about big irrigation schemes as a country, but there are simple innovations. One time the president came up with a very simple innovation. That was this mineral water bottle. That to me was an innovation. And people actually, I visited his farm. That is, the place is running out of my mind. But when I visited the farm, I found that this bottle irrigation had yielded fruits. So if the can look into that area, that's why we talk of food. Then another statistic is that 12% of the population is chronically in food insecurity in this country. And remember, I said we have majority of the youth, of our population are youth. How do we engage these youth in meaningful agriculture? It is a shame we always talk about our country, the backbone being agriculture, backbone being agriculture. But your backbone is agriculture, just said Priscilla. Yet you only have 40% of the population in commercial agriculture. The rest 60% is in subsistence agriculture. So is that your backbone then? So how do we shift this 60% into meaningful commercial agriculture? Implementing this. So that is also still in relation to the theme. But also, the youth in this country have played a very big role in cutting down forests, where 3% of our forest cover is lost every year in Ichako, in activities where majority are the youth. So if we look at a theme regarding food system, theft of food, then another problem, why I find this very important, is that 40% of the produce our farmers really plant is lost in post-harvest, where there are rats, poor storage facilities. One time the president talked about silos in this country, that Uganda, our government is going to invest. And they put silos as far as district per district. They were given silos and that investment is there, but people are not utilizing it at the same time. So how do we have the youth also look at that area? How do we reduce post-harvest losses in our country? So there's so much that I believe that if we are to discuss this theme, the youth have great potential and we must empower them, their innovations, give them sufficient information, give them sufficient skills so that we can promote food systems that not only consume the entire journey from
talk about today's time of youth, 15 to 25 or 30 for that matter. When you talk about these food systems, they're juicy, but the youth of today may not really want to get into the garden, may not want to get into the digging process. So how can we attract them to realize that it is through engagement and implementation of or adaptation of systems that can actually help them gain the kind of financial independence that they dream of and the big plans that they have?
First and foremost, sensitization is very important, but also availability of markets and modern methods of farming. Like a Priscilla Nalwoga may not really go under using the hand hoe that we had today, but we can have modern ways of agriculture, mechanization of agriculture. That a Priscilla Nalwoga can know that maybe there is a small tractor, not this huge massive Ferguson, but I can use around. Priscilla may not go to the garden, then fetch water, then begin watering the plants. Maybe Priscilla, we can have a modern way of irrigating. Maybe it's just peddling, and the crops are being irrigated throughout. So also having proper markets. Government should interest itself when it comes to agriculture. How best do we ensure that farmers get good money for what they are harvesting? We have a change of the middlemen. Recently, government banned importation of poles, utility poles for electricity. If a Nalwoga can know that as I'm working at UBC, if I have my 30 acres, 20 acres maybe family land, because the president always talked about, let's stop land fragmentation. Let's come up with projects as families. You have 30 acres. Instead of saying, Kirabo, take your 1 acre. Nalwoga, let's come together with a project and then invest in it. So if government policies are friendly, that we can know as a family we are into tree planting, later on government is going to buy these poles. That is market. This East African community, the more we open up, you saw when eggs are moving to South Sudan, we are selling so much. So availability of market, government policies that protect the local farmer, then also value addition. You know, this issue of perishables hinder youth from venturing into this. But if you can give them machines, maybe tomatoes into tomato sauce, eggshells into some form of powder, matoke, all these will attract the youth, that we shall move away from the other thought of who a farmer is, definition of a farmer, torn clothes, the fingers and all that. Today's youth may not go into that. But you can entice them into it, because many may be unemployed. COVID-19 has proved many sectors were locked, but the agricultural sector remained flourishing. Yes, there could have been reduction in terms of amounts of money people are getting from their produce, but at the end of the day, gardens were opened, trucks moving food and all that, and human beings survive on eating.
You have mentioned COVID-19, and in the past 1.5 years for this country, we see increasing numbers of our youth being challenged. One, because the education sector is unstable, schools are on and off, and we have youth being retained at home. The result of that is that we're having child labor within the community. We are having a lot of unwanted pregnancies. We are having a lot of early childhood marriages that we're experiencing in our different communities, which is absurd, because then it deters the future of this country, because these youth are the future of tomorrow, and if they're not empowered, taken care of, protected today, then we're going to have a different, difficult future for this country, Uganda. With those challenges, as we are looking at International Youth Day, what would you suggest are the recommendations to be able to empower the youth in Uganda that are actually facing these challenges?
One, unfortunately, is education, because educate a population, then there is at least assurance of the way forward. But unfortunately, at such a time, it's not impossible. But what is very important is that still, away from those that are in school, we have a number of youth in this country that are in the informal sector. Many youth today are very innovative. Many are in businesses. So let's address the informal sector. How do we empower these struggling youth to move from the informal sector, formalize it, give them credit that is really meaningful to them, and they can afford this? Then I believe you've empowered them financially. All they need is financial empowerment.
Well, the one true fact fact is that a young person has energy to do anything. If only you show them the direction and you show them the methods of doing it, you will be transforming a nation for tomorrow. Now, the Office of Uganda's Ambassador for Women and Girls will be commissioning a community health center to address the increasing teenage pregnancies among adolescents as they celebrate International Youth Day. And this is going to be followed by Teens Awards, and they're going to be awarding 11 Ugandan champions who have put their lives in the front to fight against COVID-19. This event is going to be graced by a number of dignitaries and is going to be held at Plan International, among others. Then we now cross over to the business sector. The business sector at the start of this week, you know, there was a directive from KCCA last week that mandatory for you to open an arcade, you would be required to have inspection, install some CCTVs, cleaning, screening things before we can give you leeway to open your arcade. By today, that story has changed. You can open, but we shall be inspecting as business is going on as usual. But also, there's a stimulus package that has been that is being dispatched to the small and medium enterprises to the tune of 200 billion shillings. And this is the conversation that we equally want to engage in here on Good Morning Uganda in the newsreel. We are joined by Kasita's CEO and Mr. Mwesije Abel. Good morning to you, Mr. Mwesije.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So, Mr. Mwesije, to get right into the dialogue, as we have seen, some arcades are now opened. How many arcades by percentage do we have opened in Kampala?
Thank you so much. My name is Abel Mwesije, as you rightly put, and I'm the CEO of Kasita Uganda. By percentage, and unfortunately, I'll give a report that was given by the inspection team where we were excluded as the business representatives. So it is a team comprised of government agencies that has done this. So I'm not owning the information that I'm going to provide. Now, out of the 150 buildings that were inspected, only 70 of them, so that is 50%, were allowed to open, even when we feel there are more than 150 buildings around. So around 75 were not compliant, and so they were not recommended to open.
Okay. All right. Now we look at the 200 billion. Kirabo here has been asking himself, we had the teachers receiving money and they were not able to actually get the money until they formed a circle. And now we want to find out, as Kasita, what is going to be your formula for actually benefiting your subscribers to this package of the 200 billion. What is going to be the recruitment process, who's eligible for this package, and how will they be able to pay back?
That's the same question we are still asking ourselves. As the business community, we are still trying to find out the right criteria that is required, because even from the previous lockdown, I mean, the stimulus package that was put in UDB, ideally there is no business person, especially in the MSMEs, that accessed that package. Yes. And the reason was, after it being channeled through UDB, instead of it being a grant, you know, to support business recovery, it was then turned into a normal loan, which is very expensive. And so even the requirements, I mean, you had to have heavy collateral, heavy security to access. And that's why up to date, we do not have a single beneficiary from the previous package. So right now we are engaging various stakeholders, including ministries, finance, trade, and we are trying to have a business registration survey for those people that should actually benefit from it. However, government has not yet come out to lay out the right criteria, to lay out the right beneficiaries, even when we believe most of our members should benefit from this. But this time around, we are a bit hopeful that that government will reconsider the criteria, unlike the previous one.
In terms of criteria that you state, is it the government that is supposed to give you the criteria, or is there a round table upon which you and the government are sitting together to come up with a criteria that is beneficial and, attracts both entities?
If a round table was put, it would be the most preferred way. But as me and you, we are aware, the elective was to have this money channeled to UDB. For business people to access. But now, we've hardly had any roundtable with UDB or any other stakeholders, meaning they are not for that approach, even when we've advocated for that. So that's why up to now we are saying we are waiting to hear from the stakeholders that are actually having those finances to tell us the criteria that they need, which has not come out through yet.
All right, so you are stating that you are not exactly aware of government's clear criteria. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because we've tried. We have members ranging from the trading sector to some are even manufacturers, but none of them has actually accessed. So that's why this time round we are trying to engage and understand the right criteria that they actually need to enable our members benefit. Because indeed businesses have been affected, that one is evident, but to find that nobody's benefiting, nobody's getting that business recovery package, it's really quite disappointing.
On your side, from Casita and the businesses that subscribe under this particular entity, what do you feel should be the criteria of beneficiaries?
In the first case, we have many businesses that have a value addition within them, which would actually be supported so much. Then we have businesses that do actually employ a big number of people, because if you support a business that employs more than 10 people, then there is a big population that you have actually saved. And then, we have these large taxpayers, and they are on record. So if someone has been a big taxpayer and very compliant, and you have records, why would you let such a business to collapse? So that's why we believe those are some of the criteria that should be considered over time, but it has not yet been considered, and so we are trying to wait to see if our recommendations will be considered.
All right. Robert Haya has a question for you.
Abe, just to get it clear from you, we know these are government funds and there is accountability. And we know the challenge that Casita you have. Most of your people are doing things the informal way. So how have you prepared yourselves to suit in this? Because government may not lower the standards because they have to account for this money. But it is you to up your game. So which efforts have you taken? The first phase stimulus package was taken by big companies because they had proper, well-audited books. They would show their returns and everything. Yet a big number of your people, despite contributing much to the economy, do not have this. And maybe government cannot just dish out money in this way.
Robert, I would like you to appreciate that 98 of the business community prayers do actually have work on borrowed capital from banks and other financial institutions. And I would want to tell you that UDB is not any different from these other commercial institutions when it comes to such criteria. Now, if a person can access a loan of worth billions after presenting all the credentials, get top-ups, and then, how then would we say that the business community is not ready? Yeah. So I want to assure you that our people are very much ready. They have been surviving on loans. They have serviced them. They have grown from scratch to where they are. And I want you to know that they have records. They are very much well prepared. There is no way URA can recognize you as a large taxpayer if you don't file returns, if you don't have records. So that's why we are saying Casita has got a membership of 200,000 members, registered members. Now, out of the 200 registered members, there is no way you can tell me that none of them actually is that compliant, is that ready. They are there, Robert.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwesije Abel, for your time. And we hope that we will be hearing from you in terms of, in case this package is actually given to the microfinance for you to be able to easily benefit from it. We want to hear from you when you receive it. How will it be distributed? And over the 8 years, how will it be paid back by the business community? And that's a conversation that we shall be continuing with you on another day. But thank you so much for making the time, for being with us here on Good Morning Uganda.
Most welcome, and good morning.
Good morning. All right, Robert, crowning up this conversation, as we have heard from him, criteria is still, a challenge for them. Government has its own criteria, but it's not clear, neither is it open to the beneficiaries, and yet the beneficiaries also feel this should have been the, the bar upon which they can benefit from it. Where do we draw the merger between the two?
Well, first and foremost, I find a mismatch somewhere. Because if Uganda Development Bank has a criteria through which you can get money, and these traders have been getting money from there, this is no different from what government is demanding. If you look at the first stimulus package, when government gave out money, big companies came and took off this money because they were more organized. The thing is, Casita has to up its game. Go and find out what is needed, process your members, let them know, and follow this up. But when they think, when people hear of government has given money, there's this tendency, like you said, we thought it's going to be a grant, yet this is going to be a loan payable in 8 years, even the previous, because government money is not charity.
All right. Government money may not be charity, but still terms and conditions always apply to any partnership and transaction, especially if it's monetary. So over a long time, they will definitely come to a round table, have an understanding, and we hope that this COVID relief will be able to benefit businesses in real time, not as we saw the balance of 100,000 shillings coming in after lockdown of 42 days. Beyond that, we get to now step into the news, where we get to check out the tabloids and what is making headlines on Thursday morning's papers, front pages and back pages. Good morning.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Therefore, understanding this model. Hey, excuse me, lady. Who do you think you are? A queen?
Hey, haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you for keeping it with us on UBC TV, where we ensure that we spice up your morning with relevant information as you go about business during the day. So please make it a date every weekday from 6:30 till the hour of 9, where we bless your morning with that information that will help you fit in any conversation, but also plan wisely, because information is power. I'm Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and welcome to Press Review, where we look at some of the stories that are making headlines in the dailies. I'm holding today's Vision, and a big headline there: Bank of Uganda speaks out on bad personal loans. Well, the new Vision gives you more of that. But in the education column, yes, we have Senior 4 English, Entrepreneurship, ICT, plus Senior 2 Physics and Mathematics. Still, today's Vision gives you events as they unfolded. That is at Kolo Ceremonial Grounds, where His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, accompanied by the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, handed over, that is, a car to gold medalist, that is a Perth Cheptegei, for raising the country's flag high at Tokyo Olympics Games, where they won gold and bronze and silver for us. So he blessed them with vehicles. Still, the new Vision brings you over 200 offers in tenders. That is Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, World Vision, Ngora, Napa, Kiruhula, local governments. Some jobs there for you and opportunity. How UPDF beat militants at their own game. That is battle for Mogadishu. They give you more how our gallant sons and daughters under the armed forces were able to ensure peace is restored in Somalia. Katikilo explains Kabaka's trip to Germany. That is the Katikilo of Buganda, Charles Peter Maiga, explaining why the Kabaka of Buganda is in Germany. Still more here, they give you regarding financial management. The new Vision brings you more of that. But Priscilla is also ready to give us a glimpse of what is in today's Daily Monitor.
All right, Robert, a glimpse into the Daily Monitor this morning. We get to look at the top of the page. Daily Monitor is doing a series on healing COVID. Okabachi blacked out twice before seeking medical care. Story that you can find on page 11. A story of hope that we can fight against COVID-19. In today's Daily Monitor, you get Kansanga was their center of a love miracle. For the ones that are in love, get some inspiration in the Daily Monitor. In love, but the black and white of the Daily Monitor this Thursday morning, airlines bosses face criminal prosecutions, and the action is now being taken in that regard. In pictorial front page, hard work pays off. Olympic medalists getting their vehicles there. You have Mr. President, jamboring the man who brought gold and silver back home, and that is Joshua Cheptegei. But also in other news, we have doubling senior 1 and senior 5 classes, worrying head teachers. We also get to look at 130 science ministry staff in panic over restructure, and of course in conflict they get to show you South Sudan leaders agree to end clashes.
Still in the new vision, we look at COVID-19 statistics in our lovely country, Uganda, where today new confirmed cases are 112. Positivity rate still going down, and that is 4.0%. New death, 8 people succumbed to COVID, and total death is 2,821. But we know what to do: perfect the SOPs and do not be part of these statistics. Symptoms: fever, cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, headache. In case you have any of these, please seek medical attention. For the earlier, the better, and more chances of you recovering from COVID-19. Still on facts or myth about COVID-19, what can I do in case of anxiety? Well, here the experts from the ministry answer and give you tips on what you should do. Looking at history, that is today in history, it was on this very date, the 12th of August, the year 1967. When Samuel Gerere rebukes government, that is the Democratic Party, DP Publicity Secretary Paul Kawanga Samuel Gerere took to government to task on adjournment of parliament. Still on the same date, we see African Union presses Burundi on peace deal.
Daily Guide in the Daily Monitor is giving you, in the news, family dies after eating fertilizer, dozens trapped in India landslide. I think that's something that Molen Kenyana will hint on in our weather update this morning on Good Morning Uganda. From the archives, President Idi Amin handing over a letter to the East African Community Minister, then to convey it to then President Julius Nyerere of Tanzania for returning 4 Ugandan prisoners of war back in 1972. Today in history, Obote issues UPC's 1980 election strategic plan, and also skeleton of Triceratops rex discovered. That was in August 12, 1990. But for editors speak, in the world, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed issued a call Tuesday for all eligible civilians to join the armed forces as fighting rages in multiple regions of Africa's second most populous nation. In the region, we get to look at the high prevalence of psychosocial distress and suicide among refugee families in northern region due to gender-based violence. International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health Study has indicated.
In the new vision sport, it is all joy and celebrations as Museveni insists Uganda deserve medals, and also offers cars and houses, that is to medalists. It wasn't a miracle, that is President Yoweri Museveni, and a picture of Joshua Cheptegei, and also we see here Pelsi Chimtai receive vehicles from His Excellency, congratulating them for having sure that our flag flies high at the Olympics. And of course, what a joy it was, our national anthem being played when we won that gold as well.
In the sports for Daily Monitor, Messi's move to PSG, setting targets. Lionel Messi said his dream of winning UEFA Champions League once more after joining PSG is on. M7 gifts cars and houses. In picture there, Mr. President handing a key to Joshua Cheptegei. And still on Cheptegei, there's a cry for more funding, renaming Kololo Hill. And the President Museveni is recommitting to reward the scheme for sportsmen. So that's those are some of the good initiatives that are coming through in sports.
Well, Priscilla, as you prepare to take us through traffic, when should one hoot? When should one hoot in terms of you're on the road, you're driving? Because sometimes I think it becomes a public nuisance. But since you're the person in traffic, maybe more light to people that are using the roads. Well, okay, I think let's first get the feedback from those.
Okay. In the Daily Nation, before I answer your question, Robert, we get to look at Uhuru Rato's OKA by insisting on Raila for 2022 as Kenyan polls are building up. You do look at doctors want expectant mothers to take COVID jab, and also 25 years in search of elusive justice. On the side, we get to look at scramble for teachers as new union is formed. Private schools want a piece of this pie. Those are some of the conversations that are coming through in the Daily Nation this morning. But to answer your question, Robert, why do people hoot? Why should they hoot?
When should we hoot?
When should you hoot? That's very, very simple. Hooting is a discipline. When I just started driving, I was hooting all the time. To the person crossing the road, to the pedestrian, to the border, to the car in front of me, to the car that is trying to overtake me. And by the end of the day, you would literally have a headache, or you'd have a hooting sound in your head, right? Yeah, but then my dad, on the other hand, when he's on the road, he never hoots. He never hoots at all. So I tried to be like him, and I realized that that's simply a discipline that people have. When you're on the road, you're not the only road user. The border man is using the road, and he's using it the way he wants to use it. The car in front of you is using the road. They desire to use it. Now, sometimes it will be okay with you. Sometimes it will totally not be okay with you. And your response to hooting is you saying that you're angry with what they've done to you. But unfortunately for you, they're not hearing your anger. They're just hearing a hoot, and they're asking, why are you hooting? I'm just bypassing you. Why are you hooting? I'm just entering the road. So many a times Ugandans hoot out of emotional response to something that has been done and they disagree with or they don't like. Now the question goes back to, why are you hooting? Why are you hooting? And that should be very simple. Hooting is a communication. It's a road or vehicle or motor communication between you and who you want to communicate to. And it could be in the sense of someone's trying to overtake you, but there's a car coming through, or someone is trying to enter the same lane that you are in, but you're hooting at them because the angle at which they're entering, they need to be more sensitive, or in how they curve into the lane, or a border person is trying to encroach on your side. You hoot to let them know, both, please extend. So those are some of the reasons you should be hooting, but emotional hooting is largely the extent at which people do. It's just a response to other person's reaction. But away from that, we get to look at traffic in parts of Ntinda building up to Nalia, Chwatule, and we get to step from Tinda into Chwatule Road. We do have some traffic that we are seeing here, indicators of red, especially for this car that brings in Chwatule Nigeria traffic, connects it into Tinda. We get to see that there's a red zone here, and the red zone is stretching up to that Tinda Road, meaning that so many vehicles are actually setting off right now to be able to get into the heart of the city. But because this is a straight road, so this is really a junction, you're going to have the traffic because it's going to be hard for you to easily connect to this route. But also we do have a red zone for the traffic that's building up and entering into Nalia, and that also, the challenge there is that it's a narrow road, and because it's a narrow road, you get to see that people are using it for double lane, especially for traffic that is trying to get into town or away from town. That could be the challenge there. Now, speaking of Majwala Road. When we connect to Majwala Road, you get to see it connects us to Nalia Road, which then leads us to the Nalia roundabout on the bypass, which seems to be clear this morning. Construction work continues to happen on this particular Nalia roundabout, and we get to see it affecting the flow of traffic on anyone using the Kampala Northern bypass. Temporarily closed right now. It has extra routes that have been created by the company responsible for the construction work going on there. And so those alternative routes change per season depending on which side they're working on. So if you knew an alternative route 42 days ago, well, trust you me, that alternative route has changed. So be mindful of the signage. The road signage now here plays and helps you to actually maneuver and go to the right place that you wanted to go to. But away from that, getting to look at the rest of the traffic in the areas of Chiwatule, connecting still to the bypass. The road from Chiwatule that connects up to Chiwatule police station seems to be having clear traffic, except where it comes into cross-section there with Sinbel supermarket, and this is then heading to the areas of Nalia. Another route, of course, is the Chiwatule main route that heads you into Chanja and Nigeria and the likes. Where you get to pass Yusef supermarket, there's a very sharp bend there, and there seems to be traffic on either side of that particular road. When you follow that traffic and go into the areas of Nigeria, Nigeria does not seem to have any particular traffic jam, yet everyone seems to be moving into this area called Nigeria. Every young corporate is moving to Nigeria. Yes, but as far as traffic is concerned, we're not seeing any traffic build up, except up where you do have the Shell petrol station in Nigeria. That usually the commuter taxis and the road is narrow, and there are also a bit of potholes here. They slow down the traffic on either side of the road. From there, this connects us to Mbogo Road, and on Mbogo Road, traffic looks to be clear this morning as we get to see it connecting to Buwate. And there was a meme that went around during the 42 days, after the 42 days of lockdown, when taxis had been finally allowed to open and operate. Someone put up a meme of very dusty children, and the tag on it was, "This is how Buwate people are going to arrive to Kampala on Monday morning, dusty." Yeah, because the dust in this particular area. But Buwate, you only see the jam actually at the junction there, getting into Nigeria and the like. So those are some of the consideration of areas for people who live between Ntinda, Chiwatule and Nigeria. Also, you know, getting interaction with the Nalia roundabout, temporarily closed, but you can follow the signage to get alternative routes. Now, speaking of alternative, there's alternative ways that we can actually protect the environment. There's also alternative ways that we can harvest on this rain season. Rather than saying it's a rainy season, you can actually harvest with water. Molan Kenyona joins us once again on nature, weather and climate to let us know how can you actually harvest the rain.
Yes, thank you very much, Priscilla. And once again, a very good morning to you all at home and wherever you are. Well, you can actually harvest rain. Now, the issue is, when it starts to rain, people need to be aware and know the best ways to do that. Now, with farming, we've advised people to always dig up some kind of trenches within the garden, such that even when the when it rains and it's running off, you're able to trap some of that rain within your gardens, even for plantations, even for especially the long-lasting, like coffee. That's a good way to actually keep rains within your plantations. Well, today we've woke up to very devastating news, I must say. We have a new record set in terms of temperatures across Europe. Now, the previous hottest record temperature that was recorded over there was 48, and that was 1977. Now, we're waking up to Italy also having a new record set at 48.7 degrees Celsius. That is surpassing what we had in Athens, Greece in 1977. And that was yesterday, Wednesday, over Italy. Now, this is continuing. This is just a continuation of what has been happening recently in terms of extreme weather. We've seen records being set years after years, but this time it is really shooting high. and following the heat waves that we've also had across most of Europe and also for America, it has been something that we're looking at recently as new temperatures records are being shoot, and also for more heat waves that are raging across the country. We also have that story from India showing a landslide that did happen, killing at least a few people, and also most of those are still trapped within the landslide. Now, this is not the first time that we are seeing a landslide in India this month. Earlier, we also saw 9 people that died in a car that were hit by debris from the landslide, and that was in Pradesh. I think also with more people, over 100 people being trapped after this landslide. Now, all this is coming due to heavy rainfall across India. Now, this is a season, actually a monsoon season for India, where we look at most of the rains over there actually being above normal and being heavy, and so because of this heavy rainfall, we get to look at more areas being experiencing landslides. Talk about extreme weather events that are happening across the world. Also for that, we did have another heat wave again shooting across most parts of Europe, and also one that was coming in from America. Again, that is something that we've been looking at for most areas within the US. We've also had more heat waves over that region, but we are seeing one that is continuing across North America, and for now it is shooting at highs of 47 degrees centigrade. Well, this is also a trigger for likelihood of having especially wildfires that have been raging across this region. Now, also we did look at the highest and most active volcano in Europe, that is Silica in Mount Etna. Now, this volcano actually erupted even last month, and we were looking at these signs of it erupting again. Now, on Monday, it did start to erupt, pushing up more ash into the skies, and also more gases, especially with sulfur dioxide. Now, this is a very active volcano, and each year geologists look out for signs of it erupting, and over time we've seen the possibilities of it being, erupting. Now, the good part is that at least whenever there is likelihood that it will happen, there is already a plan to evacuate people from that area, because it is a known and active volcano that poses a threat to the residents close to Mount Elna. But evacuation plans are always made in advance that reduces damage over that area. Well, we want to come back home here and look at what is happening in our skies. This morning, we woke up to mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions across the country. And from what I can see in our satellites over Uganda, we also did have those wet weather conditions, especially across a central Lake Victoria basin, that rainy system that started off this morning but is already fading away. We do expect that system that is coming in from Lake Victoria, where you see the dark orange, yellow and blue colors, those are the rainy systems starting to develop now. This is headed to the western parts of Lake Victoria and likely to be bringing us rains across this area. That is where we have Masaka, we have Lyantonde, Kalisizo. You can actually look out for those rains coming your way, extending up to parts of Mubende. We are seeing already cloudy conditions developing over that area, and also likely to develop into rainy conditions. Also for the Choga region, that area has started off with mostly cloudy conditions. We are starting to see this rainy system that is forming in dark blue there. That is also likely to bring in a few rains over a few areas, but that system will dissipate as the day goes on. Now, more clouds across western Uganda, midwestern Fort Porto, Mbara also having intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions already, but mostly we do see a clear day as the day progresses. Now, northern Uganda starting off with mostly sunny skies. We have very clear skies across that region. Karamoja region also with sunny conditions. Now across Mbale, still also clear skies. We have mostly sunny conditions. Now we also, for Jinja, still having those cloudy conditions after the morning light rains that were over that area. But much of the country is dealing with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. We'll be going ahead to take a look at our forecast for this morning over most parts of the country, but we do see it is really going to be a sunny day across the northern part of the country, but we do expect some rains to come in through, especially across the central northern part of the country as the day progresses. Now, most parts, especially the southern sector at this time of the year, most likely they will be having those occasional rainfall as the pressure systems in South Africa actually are active and continue to send us mostly those moist winds that keep pushing towards the country and enhance wet weather activities across that region. Now, in the forecast we have for you this morning, we'll be taking a look at most areas across the country. We start off with central Lake Victoria Basin. That is where we have Kampala, Entebbe, Mukono and Wakiso. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine. We do have that rainy system expected this morning across a few areas, but starting off with very cold conditions at 24 degrees centigrade. Looking at central northern Uganda, that is where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel. Jumani, we are forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions with temperatures going up to 27 degrees centigrade. Quite a warm morning starting off over there. Well, eastern parts of central, we have Ruwero, Waulenzi, Nakasongola in that category. Nakaseke, we are forecasting light rains and also starting off with a cold morning at 24 degrees centigrade. Now, compared to what the morning we had yesterday at 27, this is really going to feel quite cold. Well, eastern Uganda, we do have Soroti, Katakwi, Muria. We are forecasting also light rains over that area, starting off with a cold morning at 25 degrees centigrade, and most of those rains are likely to continue into the afternoon. Well, for eastern parts of Lake Victoria Basin, we do have Tororo, Iganga, Jinja in that category already having those rains forming up. We are forecasting isolated showers this morning and also starting off with a chilly morning at 24 degrees centigrade. Well, Mount Elgon Highlands, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we are forecasting isolated showers. That is starting off at a very cold morning. Take a look at that 20 over there. That is really going to feel cold compared to what we've been dealing with recently, at least within lower 20s, but 20 will really feel cold over that area. Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, we are forecasting also isolated showers, but those will be over a few areas. But take a look at our temperatures that we have for this morning. 19. This is going to feel more cold, and please take a note of this in case you're headed there this morning, or if you're headed outside, it's really going to feel cold. Now, western parts of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Masaka, we have Rakai, we have Zimbabwe. We are forecasting isolated showers. That system is already headed there. You can't expect to have those rains, but also starting off with a chilly 23 degrees centigrade over that area. Now, most areas will be picking up with wet weather activities, but that will be later in the afternoon. Well, I'll leave you at that with weather and nature. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and later on we'll be having Ruben taking us through sports. He's actually dressed well. I did compliment that he's very smart. You should look at him as well. We continue with this conversation. We are streaming live on YouTube at UBC Television Uganda. Also, you can follow the conversation on #UBCGMU on our social media platforms. My name is Molin Kenyana. Have a good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by...
was brought to you by...
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome to English in a Minute. To mince means to cut into very small pieces. You probably mince garlic or onions when you cook.
Hey Anna, come look at this. I just started a painting class.
Wow, Jonathan, that is a lot of colors.
Do you like it?
Well, it's a start.
Don't mince your words. I can take it.
Well, Jonathan, to be truthful, hard to look at.
If you mince your words, you do not speak in a direct or honest way because you want to avoid offending someone. You will usually hear this phrase in the negative form. If someone tells you, don't mince your words, they want to know the truth, even if it is difficult to hear. And that's English in a Minute.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love my soul.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Uganda, Office of the President.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Echa COVID-19 kijja kugwa only if we stay at home, observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love my soul.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Uganda, Office of the President.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, if you're looking for a heavy breakfast in terms of authentic information, then look no elsewhere apart from this morning show, which is Good Morning Uganda, from 6:30 till the hour of 9. Right about time, it is now when you look at issues of national concern and give them an in-depth analysis with guests in our studios. And today I'm honored that we are going to be discussing the plight of private teachers and institutions in this country. This comes at a time when COVID-19 pandemic has hit the world and not leaving Uganda away. And many countries have resorted to closing education institutions to avoid congestion, which is a fertile ground for COVID-19. And this is what our country has also done. Coming to about now 2 years, we've seen education institutions closed in Uganda. Yes, at one time, we saw the staggered manner of reopening schools, but then there came in the second phase where His Excellency had still to save the 15 million school going against the spread of COVID-19, which you had already seen after the reopening of schools, where many that returned home tested positive of COVID-19. Now with me in studios to discuss this, I have Patrick Kaboyo, who is the National Secretary of Federation of Non-State Education Institution, a body that brings together owners of private education institutions in this country, right from nursery till university. Patrick, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning and good morning, viewers.
Then on the extreme end, I have Busobozi Godfrey, who is from the Coalition of Uganda Private School Teachers. This is a body that brings together teachers in private schools. Busobozi, you're equally welcome to our studios this morning.
Thank you so much, and good morning, viewers outside there.
Now, gentlemen, for effective communication and due to social distancing, which is evident, I'll allow you to excuse yourself of your masks.
Thank you, Fred.
I'll begin with Patrick.
Yes.
Since the closure of education institutions, we've seen owners of schools, some selling them off. Recently, we saw them pleading to government for assistance, saying many of us depend on loans, and right now our properties are going to be taken. We can no longer sustain these institutions and our staff. Just take us through the plight of people that are owning these schools, because sir, you may not be a teacher to own a school.
Thank you, Robert, and viewers. I want to state that the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda is clear in the national directives and principles of state policy that every Ugandan who desires to have an education institution is allowed to found one. So you are free to contribute to national development through that aspect. But when you found an education institutions, it's not a mandate of government to fund you. But again, government has the responsibility to create an enabling environment to ensure that people's enterprises thrive, meaning that government should not kill but support institutions. Therefore, it's incumbent upon government to look at all these entities as schools and ensure that there is an ear to listen to them, to have these loans restructured. It's true that Bank of Uganda issued a directive telling commercial banks to have these loans revised at individual level of education institution. That being put in place has not helped the situation, because we know for sure that government is not as fast and result-oriented as the private sector, because government operates in a bureaucratic manner, while the private sector has set goals that should be achieved within a specific time. That said, we have noted from the Federation that the challenge we are faced is the bad laws that protect the commercial institutions and do not cushion the borrower. And the borrower is the owner of this private school we are talking about. And as we speak, for fear of shame or for fear of being granted having lost business, some directors are quietly suffering and dying, save for those that are coming out to seek for redress. Our office and those directors listening to us from Mbarara, from Kazo, from Chegegwa, everywhere, know that at a certain point they have come to us. We have written to commercial banks. The chairman has signed requesting those banks for a grace period. But that said, formally, and I want to emphasize formally, FENEI has written to the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and copied the Managing Director of UDB requesting for support, and we submitted an official document detailing the assistance that private schools require. How did we arrive at that? We collected information countrywide, authenticated it, and picked out the cost centers that are creating institutional stress among education institutions as being one, loan repayment from commercial banks and circles. There are also money lenders. The second was being the recurrent wage that has to do with salaries for staff, teaching and non-teaching. And the other was resumption of schools to do with renovation, fumigation, disinfection, and sanitization. But because schools opened shortly and learners were recalled, most schools are struggling. But as we struggle, we should be very well organized, not to voice our concerns as though we are putting government at ransom. If you don't do this, we are going to close. If you don't give us this, we are going to have this. You don't throw tantrums, but we should open avenues for constructive discussion.
Talking about opening avenues for constructive discussion, this is when I now bring in the teachers.
Yes.
Pushobozi, first and foremost, we know that many teachers may never return to their profession after this long period of closure. But we also know that teachers in private schools, because for government, those on their payroll, they are still earning. But for those in private schools, many of them ceased to receive anything from these institutions or their places of work. How are you, as a body that brings together these teachers, trying to ensure you sail through this period? What mechanism have you put in place?
Thank you so much, Fred. One thing which should come out clear is that the coming of COVID into play disorganized us a great deal. Not only us, the teachers in the private schools, but all systems of governance in the country are greatly affected. What have we done, we as teachers? Remember, for us, we are employed privately. So individuals with qualifications apply and they get employed in these private institutions from nursery up to the university. And it is the employer who determines the emoluments that accompany your terms and conditions of service. Over time, we have struggled through this coalition to bring unity of teachers in a country so that we can talk with one voice, that all teachers in private schools are governed under one umbrella. Challenges notwithstanding, we have moved a great deal. Schools at individual level who have been encouraged to formulate circles. And these circles are growing to the district circle, and then we shall form an apex circle at the national level, which will be able to work as a cushion for the teachers' welfare. However, as we speak today, in terms of monies, we do not have a bag which is kept somewhere in the corner that when a private school teacher across the country has an issue to do with finances, he or she can be able to access that kind of money. That is this challenge which we are facing today. Now, literally the government left us to be. It is only the president of this country who thought and said that we need to think about these private school teachers' plight. And he promised us some money, and that money was offered, which was 20 billion shillings.
That was around May last
That was more than a year ago. And when that money was offered, we embarked on the systems of operationalizing the usage of that fund. Fast forward, we agreed that this money will be a revolving fund, which we shall be managing ourselves, such that we can be able to use it infinity. Now, we got a challenge with the technocrats at the Ministry of Education and Sports. They said that with us, we are very disorganized. Now, when they said that we are very disorganized, we asked, what do you exactly mean? They told us that our disorganization resonates to not being representative enough, which really doesn't hold water. I don't want to go into that discussion. So we embarked on bringing together all the national associations that deal with private school teachers' issues in the country, together with the unions. So we got the unions of private school teachers in Uganda, together with associations of private schools in Uganda, and we came together and formed a coalition which would be in a position to manage the affairs of seeing to it that the teachers access this money.
The question I'll put to you is, why has it taken you this long? Because one of the things, yes, the ministry was right, is that there were so many associations. And they said maybe by then you lacked the capacity. I don't know if now you have it. Why has it taken teachers, a professional body, when it doesn't take taxi drivers, it doesn't take maybe traders, it doesn't take people, even in the informal sector? Why take teachers this long?
The reason is very simple. Teachers are academicians. You do not call them on a one go. They have to think and reason through. Then the other aspect is real administrative. I don't want to appear on a national TV and accuse people who hold offices for having frustrated our efforts. Processes are ongoing. We are still engaging the ministry. As a matter of fact, we want to reach out to the PS Minister of Education now, and we find a way on how the teachers can access this money. Because the proposal which is being fronted does not hold water. The proposal is that the teachers' circles should access money from Microfinance Support Center directly. But remember, by the time we come to where we are today, we had realized that there were pseudo circles which were appearing to be teachers' circles. And at the end of the day, they were not. Who were risking to access this teachers' fund. And we are saying no. For us, we have organized ourselves. Very soon, the Apex circle will be in place, and then we shall be good to go. But in the meantime, we proposed to the ministry that we have the Walimu Circles Union, which manages government funds for the teachers. That teachers' fund is majorly to do with the teachers on the government payroll for purposes of recovery. So we advised government that in the meantime, let the Walimu Teachers Circle be managing our fund as we organize ourselves better to have everybody on board and build consensus. And that's where we are.
Patrick, I find that a bit maybe disturbing, but of course let me first remind our viewers that please you can be part of the topic of discussion by using our various social media platforms, most our WhatsApp number. Please, it's on your screen. Send in your question, your contribution to this program as we look at the plight of private teachers and institutions amidst COVID-19. This is a huge number. We have about 2,000 non-state education institutions in this country. Those are private academic institutions. Then we are talking about 450,000 teachers able to teach of earn a living because they're in private schools. Patrick, one of the things that I find very disturbing is the fact that the president has given this money, that was even in the first lockdown. Yes. Till now, teachers have not been able to access this money to bail them out or invest and all this, and many may even quit this profession. How is it very difficult, really? Yes, you said they're academicians, but why are we seeing a snail pace of doing things here?
Thank you, Robert, Kirabo, and the viewers. In Godfrey's communication, he said that they were perceived to be disorganized. And I want to speak it right through the camera that it is a daunting challenge to have operators and stakeholders in the private sector organized. Yes, both teachers and directors are not easy people to organize in the private sector. Those who are listening to me should know it as a fact. Why? Before COVID, there were countable organizations for private schools in terms of directors and teachers. But when COVID came, it has brought the human COVID babies and the institutional babies that are formed as a result of giving voice. And because of that, you will see very many of them around town, you will see them around the up-country stations, but you ask them, wait a minute, can I have your registration certificate? When did you come to exist? You'll find that they are either 6 months or 4 months or 8 months. But now they're in the business of speaking loud. Even some of those institutions have not grasped how government works. So if as stakeholders we delayed to get organized, then it should be our own challenge to clean our house, to see that every person in our configuration is organized. And how do we get organized? I would advise that for every teacher in a private school, you should not wait for the president's money to get organized. You should be having circles at your school level that you subscribe to monthly as a salaried person. And it should also be good that a school X contributes a certain percentage to that school circle to cater for eventualities. But also a good school worth its name should be contributing to every teacher to the National Social Security Fund, because we have seen that any human being who has not saved in this COVID will suffer. So those pockets of getting organized are the ones that are causing this money to delay from where it is, because there is a thinking that if this money is given out to individuals, they may eat it. But I would want to be on record that when this money came, the Federation wrote a position paper to the then Permanent Secretary, Mr. Alex Kakoza, and guided. Because this money was to help a situation which was at hand then. We requested that there should be a committee of eminent people appointed and selected to oversee the giving of this money. But the money changed from being money to solve an issue into being a revolving fund that it has to be borrowed and it rotates. So in that rotation, the channels and methods of managing that money, of course, changes.
What was the president's initial, if you're privy to know, what was his initial plan for this money?
You remember,
what was the intended purpose?
You remember that when COVID intensified in the first lockdown, some teachers burnt themselves. Some died. May their souls rest in peace. Some were restless, having nothing to do. I think those who share with the president told him the plight of teachers in private schools is dire. So he came in to help them with that money to sort the issues then. But because there was no proper modality of, first of all, identifying them, how are they registered? Do they have the numbers? Who can give us the data, the information? So that delay made the money into being a revolving fund. And I should say that the money has changed picture. So it's no longer a COVID relief. It's going to be a revolving fund, as my colleague said. And that said, it calls for further reorganization, strengthening systems, and increasing teachers' voice.
Well, to a teacher who is watching this program, this seems hope still far ahead to be realized when they can be able to get this money. That is teachers in private institutions. Godfrey, as the process for money continues, at this time, look at the plight of teachers. What avenues have you ensured that teachers can continue with a decent livelihood at such a particular time?
I'll be very candid, and unfortunately, it is every man for self and God for us all. In the private sector, where the teachers are today, each one is looking for survival. Remember, we are coming almost to 2 years now when people are not at work. Yes, there was a brief stunt when schools were opened, and shortly after they were closed. But even then, not all schools had been opened because not all classes were going to school. Now, what is happening today is human survival. Because remember, I have told you, for us, we are employed in the private sector. So you are employed as an individual entity, and it is that institution which covers you. But institutions have closed. Our directors are here. Mr. Kabo is representing them. They have no source of income. And though they are my bosses, but I will also critique them. When they are employing us to work in their institutions, there is no cushion which they put in place. That's why here they are making a lot of noise about the loans. But guess what? If you go and scrutinize, do they put back the money within the institutions which they operate where they employ us? Or they diversify? They use these institutions as cash cows to establish other entities of enterprise as opposed to the continuity of the institution which employ us. So in a nutshell, the teachers are on their own. It is human survival. How do I survive as a person? Because there is nowhere else you will run to. We had pushed in the labor movement through the private school teachers unions such that we can have access to the National Social Security Fund saving. You know the story, what is happening. That avenue is not yet bringing what is expected. On the COVID relief, which we changed into a revolving fund, there is still a lot of innuendos and not very clear issues why this money cannot be given to Walimu SACCO's union, such that the SACCOs which we could recommend can access this money. These are administrative, really. They are small administrative issues which we are trying to engage with the ministry to see to it that at least if we can recommend a given SACCO can be able to access that money. But we prefer this money to be managed by us because we are saying, let Walimu SACCO's union manage this money for a given period of time such that at a later time, then it will be given to our own Apex SACCO, which has been duly formed and it is up and running. But the ministry administrators are seeing it with another, I don't want to go into those details, but they know better. But we're engaging, even after this show. I'm going to see 1, 2, 3 officials, and we see how we should continue engaging so that in the shortest time possible, the teachers can access this money within their SACCOs which are in existence. Because remember now, all the SACCOs have been depleted at the school level. Because there is no income.
There is no income, yes.
Yeah, schools are not operating,
service run them.
So there is no money coming in, and there is no income forthcoming. And yet we have our money lying somewhere. So, but when you engage the government officials, they give their reasons to me, which I don't buy into, but we're engaging.
I love the word we are still engaging,
Yes,
and
yes.
we know dialogue is the way to go. However, this is a matter of urgency that really should be expedited because many teachers' livelihood, these are people that own families, that fend for their families, and this is a situation. Yet they have hope that there is somewhere where His Excellency saw it wise to bail them out. Patrick, as we come to the end of the segment, looking at you as owners of these private institutions, we know majority of education institutions in this country are private. Talk about nursery, government does not go into pre-primary. Talk about universities, a couple of them are private, then also secondary. But at such a trying moment, we know many institutions may never open up. What is your message to school owners? I saw some craving, yearning, and they are told to sell assets. So how best can we ensure that when finally either we've gotten the vaccines or we've gotten soil treatment, we have our education institutions, private, resume smoothly?
Thank you so much. We have hope. One is that the leadership is aware of this plight, and it's also a fact that the highest enrollment in education institutions in this country is in private schools. And we also know that when Mr. Dong of UNEB reads his results, those grades, distinctions, and best performance all come from private schools. We know that all universities in this country, government that take the best that have the principal passes and the distinctions, all get those students from private schools. So for us to keep that trend sustainably touching our torch bright and also making Uganda the leader of education provision in the East African community, there has to be an urgent intervention in terms of a fund. The Honorable Minister could have spoken his position as an individual, but I don't think as a leader that that statement was worth mentioning when the sector is hurting. So for him to retract it is to call all those that own schools to sit and have a plan of action. And to the President, we request that he makes a directive, because if he directs Minister of Finance, the Minister will retract his statement. UDB should provide money for these schools to reopen. I want to tell you that schools are not at the same level of survival. There are those that are at the brink, there are those that are at a certain level, so there has to be a quick assessment of every education institutions with an independent committee to establish, because we know there could be those hoarding resources, they still have money, they are mark timing to see whether government will come with a bailout. But of course, the way we started these institutions should be the way we should strive to have them survive, because I know for sure that when we were starting these schools, government didn't give us a contribution that can we give you this part of our contribution. All those voices we are hearing is because people are getting money. We are hearing General Saleh is giving money to some groups. We are hearing the musicians, the comedians are camping in Gulu, getting money. Yes, money can be given to them, but the fundamental human capital fabric of this country is delivered through education and through the teachers and directors of schools who are managing this institution. If we want to project the National Development Plan 3, which hinges on human capital, we have to redirect our investment in education at all levels, public and private. So a clear public-private partnership framework for resumption of learning must be put in place, either by borrowing from the World Bank or any borrower or any lender rather, but not to think we are going to be there like that. Even Parliament should ask the ministry to request for a supplementary budget for the resumption. For God's sake, every school running requires money to start, and the supplementary budget is the first hanging fruit that we would want to pick.
Well, I want to thank you so much. That is Patrick Kaboyo, who is the National Secretary of Federation of Non-State Education Institutions, and Busobozi Godfrey, Coalition of Uganda Private School Teachers. We've been looking at the plight of private school teachers and institutions in our country. All is not lost. There's still hope that one day the money will come, but as a revolving fund, not as COVID-19 bailout or relief in any form. And Patrick rightly said it, if you're talking about building a generation, education is key, and we cannot close our eyes when it comes to private institutions that many, if not helped, may never exist. Some have turned into poultry farms, others, they have even been demolished, and there's different forms of construction. Some are rentals. We need to save this, and we need to look at the plight of education institutions that are private and the teachers as well. I want to remind you that one of the requirements for us to reopen the education institutions in this country is ensuring that teachers are vaccinated. Recently, we received about 580,000 doses of AstraZeneca. Please, teachers, wherever you are among the priority groups, go and get vaccinated. If you're due for the second jab, that is after 12 weeks, please go and get that second jab. This is the only way we shall ensure that you are back into life, because we shall not have severe illness and death. Let's embrace vaccination. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. I'll leave you with Ruben Pima Kasera Chibirango to give you all the catchy stories and updates in the world of sports. Till tomorrow, God willing.